Hi there. Welcome back to Getting to After. My name is Chatone Morrison. I am your host. I am the Princess of Positivity, and this is another episode of A Haven for Midlife Women. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you'll notice that my partner is not here today. Typically, I have my friend and co-host Morgan Boosters sitting right alongside me. She has a terrible virus and she has been struggling all week. So she said, you know what? Go ahead and tape without me. But she did send her greetings and her love. You know, she's a love bug if you've been with us for a while. And if this is your first time, let me tell you a little bit something about why we're here. We're here to support the nervous system of midlife women, but not in a clinical way, in a loving way, so that you can reset, rejuvenate, and keep yourself going. We call ourselves Getting to After because there are so many afters you have to get through in midlife. We want to help you do that smoothly. So as you go ahead and grab your warm beverage, or maybe you're drinking a soda right now, maybe you're with us live, or maybe you're watching in the replay. First, let me say thank you and then settle in because we're going to be talking about something that definitely affects every single one of us. And we're going to do some tapping to help us get through it. Most of us can remember a time when something happened within an important relationship. It was not a good thing. There were rift happened, a little rupture, and you were expecting repair and it never came. Let's think about that for a moment. When was the last time you found yourself waiting and wanting an apology, but it never happened? It's hard, isn't it? Maybe it was a colleague at work, someone who dismissed you. Maybe it was a family member and the way they misunderstood your intentions and refused to let it go. Or maybe it was a friend who said something very careless but very cutting. Or maybe it's a parent who never acknowledged the hurt that it gave you as a child. Or maybe it's a child who crossed the line with a parent and moved on and just said, doesn't matter at all. As midlife women, we take those things very difficultly. We take them very hard because generally relationships mean so much to us, but also because we have gotten to a point where we expect, we deserve. And when our deserve level is not met, there's a rift. Today, we're going to talk about what you can do about that to have peace, to still have your power with or without an apology. It's interesting that for many of us, those moments, they don't quickly disappear. If you're able to conjure up one from your mind, maybe it happened recently or maybe it happened years ago, they sit with us. They replay. We play them over and over in our minds, and it's because we're waiting for repair. There's something very interesting that happens when we have those kind of rifts. Our nervous system, what happens with our nerves, they're just wearing thin. And the more that you ruminate over something negative, the thinner the nerve becomes, which is why you say you're on my nerves. It's not just something to say. It's not just a cliche. It's real. You know, as crazy as the world is right now and as chaotic as it is outside of us, we really do want to be able to navigate our regular lives with just harmony. And we may be talking about something that happened at work or something that happened with family, but regardless where it took place, if it's lodged inside of us, we need to see if there's a way to release it. So let me just tell you a little story that happened with me. And this happened some years ago, and it took me a long time to get over it. And I think I might have mentioned this before, but maybe not on this particular platform. So earlier in my career, when I worked for a large technology company, and someone that I greatly respected, I mean, I had him, I just had so much respect for him. And in a public forum, in a public meeting, he basically denigrated my entire existence. And although those things happen in the workplace a lot, I didn't expect them with a mentor. I didn't expect them with someone who knew so much about me, who I respected so very much, and I had placed at a high level. It was never acknowledged despite my tears. I want to say I didn't beg, and I don't believe I begged, but I did kind of figuratively get down on my knees because I wanted to keep this mentor. But it was obvious to me that the level of disrespect that had taken place in a public forum, I could not. The dismissal after that felt like a cut each and every time I spoke with him because I kept figuring, okay, this next time he calls me into his office, it's going to be to apologize, or at least acknowledge how hard it was to continue just going through the motions without that healing taking place. Now, I will tell you that I carried those moments so much longer than I wanted to. The people involved, which was other people involved as well, I know that they have moved on and I hadn't. And that also is, it kills you. It kills you when you do that. But I had to eventually realize a couple of things, and that is that other people had moved on. In fact, the apology I was waiting for from my mentor and from some other people that I had worked so closely with, they didn't even know it existed. They didn't even understand that there was hurt involved. Now, since then, I told you it was a while ago, I have learned not to expect anything like that from the workplace. Although it did teach me that I better be an entrepreneur than be in the corporate space where people can do whatever they want and move on. In fact, get promoted after treating people so badly. I needed repair though. That's who I am. And maybe that's who you are. You're saying, I'm dealing with this and maybe I should be over it already, but I need repair. And the very first thing I want to tell you, if that's the case, don't feel bad about that. Don't feel disempowered because you would like to have resolution. Resolution is not a sin. Resolution can bring peace. But sometimes you have to realize it's not going to come and you have to find a way to find your peace even without it. Now, before you get there, one of the things sometimes you have to remember is that not to hold things so long. I think that because I was waiting for someone else, then I didn't approach things. I was waiting. I didn't feel like I had the place at that time in my career to be the person to say, hey, we need to talk about this. Because they weren't in they weren't in the same situation as me, I should say. There was no need for them to come to me. It was about me. I also learned that not only do I need to deal with things with more of a quickness, but also not to hold people in too high esteem. And maybe in your midlife, you've already achieved this, you've already gotten there, but maybe you haven't. Maybe you're still holding people in such high esteem, or Morgan and I often talk about people pleasing. Maybe you're still in that place. And so you're thinking that if I hold this person in high esteem, everything's going to work out. They're going to realize how hard they hurt me. They're going to see the wound. They're going to know. But you know what? When we hold people too high, what ends up happening is we ourselves are easily hurt and we're hurt more easily and more quickly. So maybe your experience wasn't in the workplace. Maybe it's a moment in your family. Maybe it's with your mom. Maybe you're a caretaker and it's with your elderly mom. And she says things all the time that hurt your feelings. And every time you try to address them, there's a slipshod way of not acknowledging. Maybe it's with an adult child. Maybe with your adult child, you're the person that's being hurt by that adult child. It's possible. It's possible. It happens all the time. Or maybe you have a friendship and you notice the friendship has really changed and you're waiting for that conversation to come by. Like that person, maybe they weren't honest with you. Maybe they gaslit you at some point. And I mean, I'm not into gaslight. But maybe there was some gaslighting that took place at a period of time in the relationship and it hasn't been resolved yet. You keep waiting for them to show up with an apology. And maybe you're not consciously waiting, but somewhere back here, you're waiting and you're holding it. Now let's talk about what happens if if that acknowledgement and that apology never happens. What do you think happens to your power as a woman? Let's talk about it. Because there's an intersection between you holding on to something and actually continuing to have your power. See, what happens is power means we do not silence ourselves when something matters. We don't. So the first thing I learned, I told you, was that I need to speak up quicker. And that's what I do now. I mean, now in my 50s, I'm going to speak up, right? Power means you're able to say, that comment hurt me. That crossed a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. Or, you know what? I'd like for us to repair that. It's a humility thing, but hey, ego doesn't have to come in the way. If you're really seeking peace, ego doesn't come in the way there. At the same time, choosing peace and letting that be pinnacle for you doesn't mean you lose all your power. It doesn't mean that you pretend nothing happened. You know, I think about it being Women's History Month and thinking about all of the ways that women have been oppressed over the time of the years, or over the centuries. But you know what's so interesting? That sometimes we oppress each other. Sometimes the way we treat one another, we oppress one another. So we have to think about How do you, as a woman, speak up for yourself? How do you choose to have your empowerment, your power, and at the same time, whether you get an apology or not, whether there's acknowledgement or not, how do you walk forward with peace? Remember that power also includes the ability to name your own truth and experience. And I feel that one of the ways of doing that best, easy, I have a process called write and release, which I think is amazing because it allows you to write out what you're actually feeling. You can even grade those feelings and decide, is it as bad as I think, or have I just ruminated over it so long? It's hard for me to say that word, have I ruminated over it so long that it's become bigger than it really is? Only you know that. But just remembering that power includes the ability to name your truth. And so many times that's what we don't do. So many times we talk to someone, they talk us out of what our needs are. So let's not do that. Now let's talk about the apology for a moment. So apology plays an important role in healthy relationships. Notice that's a healthy relationships, not just relationships, because every relationship is not going to afford the apology that is necessary. A sincere apology, it acknowledges the harm, it reduces the hurt, it repairs the trust, it can restore the dignity, and all those things are needed if you're in the process of still being hurt by someone over a situation that happened a long time ago. The thing is, wanting an apology isn't petty, but getting one isn't always perfect. See, sometimes it just means that you believe the relationship should include accountability. I am a firm believer in accountability, and I'm willing to take it even when it's hard. I'm willing to say I'm sorry even when it's hard. But what about when it's you? What about when you're thinking, I'm waiting for this and it isn't happening? See, the difficult reality is sometimes the apology we deserve never comes. And it's not because the hurt was imaginary. And I think that's one of the things that's so hard is that we tend to, as women, I'm sorry, we gaslight ourselves. Maybe it didn't happen. We're still keeping that person in too high esteem. I'm sorry. Maybe they didn't do that. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I took it the wrong way. And there's nothing wrong with giving grace. Grace is great. But when something is repeated and it's on a high level, you wanting resolution is not wrong. It's not. It's not petty. But understand that sometimes, no matter what, the other person never will, or maybe they never even can. This happens in families. This happens in workplace. This happens in marriage. It happens with friendships. It happens with parents and children, where that apology never takes place or the acknowledgement never shows up. So then what? Those ruptures can be especially hurtful in relationships that are the closest. So does that mean that if I don't get the apology, I should cut the person off? I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk to you about what's going on inside of you. And the reason why is because I know what was going on inside of me. Because I had to go to work every single day. I had to show up there and I had to give my 110% as if nothing had ever happened. And I had to pretend. And instead of pretending, what I should have done was sort the conversation. What I should have done was say, wait a minute, but I wasn't mature enough for that. And I had them on such high esteem, I figured it must have been me. So sometimes we go from people hurting us to blaming ourselves as well. This is not powerful. So the first thing you can do in a situation like this, first of all, is apologize to yourself for making those mistakes. Apologize to yourself for taking that on, for being gaslit and then gaslighting yourself. Don't do that anymore. That is not the way to peace. See, what we know for sure is that peace does not mean pretending that the hurt didn't matter. We know that peace does not mean allowing people to rewrite history. I think that rewriting history is one of the hardest ones because it doesn't allow you to live your own truth, and then that wreaks havoc on your nervous system. Do you know that you can get trauma behind that? Constantly negating your own history, constantly saying, this didn't happen, that didn't happen, it must have been my fault. You can have a trauma without having a big traumatic experience. It's the same thing because your brain, your body, which is that connection, is hearing it's your fault, or better than that, never happened at all. What are you talking about? Then you start to mistrust you. And in midlife, with all the changes and the hormones and the hot flashes and children leaving home and becoming a caretaker for elderly adults and adult parents. You cannot afford to have a low level of self-trust. You can't. You need you. We need ourselves. See, selecting peace means the absence of apology may never come, but it's not going to control your emotional life. It's not going to control your emotional temperature. If you think about a temperature, and Morgan and I have been talking about this idea of an emotional temperature. I love it. This idea of what happens when you start to feel hot. So when you get a fever, what happens? You're like, I feel really warm. I don't feel that well. You may not have a tickle in your throat yet. Your throat's not dry. You don't have any aches and pains yet, but you feel a little warm. You feel a little off. I think I might be warm, not sure. And then you feel a little chill. You feel cold. You get those chills, or maybe your hands are sweating. You say, no, I just don't feel like myself. Kind of comes over you. That's what happens when your emotional temperature is being raised and lowered by relationships that are not acknowledging your truth, or you yourself are not acknowledging your truth, and your temperature is all over the place. Peace is hard to come by. So here's the thing. You can still believe the situation mattered. You can still know that harm took place. You can still believe an apology is warranted, even if it doesn't happen. And at the same time, you can release the hold on your emotional temperature. You don't have to allow this to bring you up and down and up and down. So let's talk about one that is one of the hardest ones. One of the hardest ones. Lately, I've been hearing so much about parents and families going no contact. And it's devastating to me. The idea of no contact with a parent or a child is devastating. But I have a few girlfriends who are telling me about people in their lives that this is happening to. Not in one state, not in one city, various people that I know. It's not in their life, but it's in the lives in the periphery around them. And they, we talk about these things like, what does that mean? What's it doing to that person that's basically being abandoned? Ruptures between parents and children are sometimes the most complex. And it's not, we're not talking about abusive situations when the kid is small and maybe they have to be taken out for foster care. We're not going there. We're talking about ruptures between adults and adults. Because sometimes parents hurt their children without even realizing, and sometimes they hurt their children and they know good and well they've done it. And sometimes children hurt their parents and move forward very quickly without understanding the impact. And I think that happens a lot too when you're a caretaker for an older adult. We have to be different with them. And we're not going to talk about that today, but we have to be a little different. The relationship is challenging. We have to be different. We have to think about that. And if a rift takes place, we need to fix it. We don't want there to be no contact. No contact is very detrimental. Now, repair doesn't always come so easily in families. Of course, it doesn't. But maturity is needed. Maturity, humility, lack of ego, all those things. But more than anything, I think acknowledgment's there. As a midlife woman, my relationships mean so much. My relationships are everything. I don't have a lot of them. We've talked about that. In midlife, our relationships start to dwindle. So don't you want to hold on to the ones that are most important? If the apology never comes, how do you do that? Do you do that by pretending everything is fine? Or do you do it by holding your own honesty and compassion together? Because that is where forgiveness actually comes from. Now, most of you know that I am a Christian. I believe in Bible principles, and I love what the Bible says about forgiveness. But here's what we know for sure. Forgiveness is basically more for you than for the other person. It doesn't erase the truth. It doesn't erase what happened, but it can release a situation from controlling your life. Now, there's a difference. There's forgiveness and there's apology. See, forgiveness comes from you. Apology comes from them. Can you have forgiveness without an apology? I think you can. If forgiveness doesn't mean you're losing your power. We first talked about power. It doesn't mean you're losing your power. I know for me, back in the day in my workplace, I couldn't get there. I just couldn't get there. Every day it sat with me. Like, why would they do that? Like, I'm such a good worker. I'm such a good person. I don't know why this happened. And later on, I realized about all these big powers. But I was young. I realized all these powers that be, people are doing self-preservation. They are acting on what serves me, what serves my family, what keeps my wife from having to go back to work. What makes it so that I can put my kids in a good college? They're not thinking about you. And that's why we want to be careful about keeping people in such high esteem that we lose sight of who we are, that we lose sight of situations. Having good insight and discernment really is where power comes from. It's not the loudest person in the room. It's not the toughest person, the person who can do their neck like this. They're not the powerful one. The powerful one is often the quiet one. The powerful one is often the one that can look and see a situation and say, okay, I'm going to find a way to release this on your own. The powerful one is the one that can be quiet about a situation, allow it to go on, and move forward and have peace anyway. Emotional freedom technique is a beautiful way of getting there. It's not magical, it is methodical. EFT works on pressure points on your body that connect to different organs, that hold the tension, that build the cortisol, that raise the emotional temperature. The emotional freedom technique helps you to release some of that. So we are going to do emotional freedom technique. We're going to specifically be looking at how to release unresolved hurt, because that's what this is all about. Can you release unresolved hurt? I truly believe that when we're able to do that, we're so much more powerful, because we don't have to have a bunch of thoughts that are bringing us down inside of our head. You know, my tagline is release negativity so your positivity can reign in your brain, in your business, in your big, bold, beautiful life. And it's not just a tagline, it's how I try to live. And the reason why is because I'm a creative person. I need my brain space. I need my brain to do what I need it to do. If I'm ruminating over things all the time, my brain can't do what I need it to do, and neither can yours. So let's get into a little bit of tapping. We're going to look at releasing some unresolved hurt. I made up some scenarios that I've heard from a bunch of different people. If this feels like I'm in your head, I'm not. It's just that I work with enough women that I hear this kind of thing all the time. And so I tried to put everything together to make this tapping feel just like what you need right now. So first things first is that we're going to start on the karate chop point. This is a tapping transformation to release unresolved hurt when you know you expected, deserved acknowledgement or an apology and it never came. I'm tapping on the side of the hand right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you if this is happening in your life right now, or maybe it did happen and you've been holding on to something. How heavy is it? Where do you feel it in your body? When you think about it, does it have a color? Does it have a smell or a sound? Does it do something? Does it raise your shoulders when you think about it? Does it make you a little stiff in your neck? Just go ahead and roll your neck out as we talk about this. Roll your shoulders up, back, around, and down a couple of times slowly. And as we tap on the side of the hand, take a couple of deep breaths with me. We're going to go in through the nose. We're going to hold it for 4 and go out through the mouth. Breathe in. And out. Now just breathe normally. And what you can do again is think about where does this sit with you on a scale of, say, 0 to 10? What are you holding on to and what is it doing? Where do you feel it? Is it an 8? Is it a 9 that you need to release? Let's see what we can do together. You can repeat after me. Even though part of me is still wanting an apology that may never come, I acknowledge the hurt that I felt, and I'm open to allowing my body to find peace. Even though a part of me still wishes the situation had been acknowledged. I honor my feelings and my experience. I'm open to releasing the weight of carrying it alone. And even though sometimes the situation still lives in my mind, taking up room, and I wish it didn't, I acknowledge the impact it had on me. I acknowledge the impact it has currently on me. And I'm open to choosing peace for myself right now. We're going to start in the eyebrow point and tap through the points. This unresolved hurt, side of eye, waiting for an apology. Under eye, part of me still wishes it had come. Under nose, the acknowledgement that never happened. Chin, carrying this far longer than I meant to. Collarbone, the acknowledgement that never happened. Underarm, my mind replaying the moment over and over. Top of head, the apology that never came. Eyebrow, maybe the other person moved on. Side of eye, but my body is still holding a memory. Under nose, that doesn't make me weak. Chin, it means the moment mattered to me. Collarbone, but I don't have to carry it forever. Underarm, I can acknowledge what happened. Top of head, I can still choose peace. Eyebrow, I know what I experienced. Side of eye, I know what I deserved. Under eye, and I can still move forward. Under nose, releasing the grip this moment had on me. Allowing it to dissipate. I no longer need this moment. 10. Allowing my nervous system to soften. Allowing my belly to be calm. Collarbone. I am making space for peace. Peace does not come from the other person. Underarm. I hold my power. I deserve my own being. Top again. Holding my power. Choosing peace. Okay, you're going to stop tapping. If you felt anything, maybe you felt chills, maybe you felt, just kind of energy moving, maybe your belly started to rumble or something like that. Maybe your throat was hard. If you're repeating after me, your throat felt kind of closed up. Those are all ways that energy is being released from your body. One of the things that I love to do is kind of rub my hands back and forth. If you happen to use essential oils, you may want to grab a little tiny drop and you can put it in your hands, because that's what I just did before I started this. And you'll start to feel yourself kind of warm up. There's other things you'll find in other videos that we have, other podcast episodes, where we're doing other types of grounding to release energy from our bodies and our minds. But just practice a little bit of deep breathing right now, kind of in through your nose, out through your mouth. You can hold for 4 at the top, and then let it out. Again, you can roll your shoulders back, up, around, and down. You can do it forward as well. Kind of shake yourself out a little bit, kind of bring your energy back. And know this. Sometimes the apology you hope for doesn't come. And that doesn't mean you lose your voice. This month, we're talking a lot about voice because as women, that's one thing that we typically give up. But to make our own personal history, we can't. We also can't live in the past. We have to live in this present moment, and then this present moment, and then this present moment, because time is always moving. We get to decide how much space we allow a moment to take up in our lives, not someone else. You hold your own power. You can acknowledge the truth of what happened. You can still choose peace, even if someone else doesn't give you what you deserved. And that doesn't mean that it wasn't important. It just means that peace is way more important. And getting to after, one of the things, the reason why we absolutely love emotional freedom technique is because it's a simple practice. If you've never had an opportunity to have a one-on-one session or be a part of one of our small group sessions, let me let you know how you can join us. Go to bit.ly/chat-tap and schedule an appointment. We also have some small group sessions that you can join as well. And if you're wanting more of this, if this felt good to you, we're always here every Tuesday, Morgan and myself. We're going to hope that she's going to be better by next week. But we're here at 8 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday mornings. And we usually do a tapping, we usually do a grounding. We talk about something that affects midlife women. One more thing I want to talk to you about is a subscription to the Getting to After magazine. Now listen, this is our winter edition, and I know that everyone is wishing for spring right now, me included. But this particular magazine has a deeper meaning than just talking about winter, which is not what it does anyway. The Getting to After magazine is a journal that allows midlife women to have that little respite all by themselves. And it's an easy, so it's really quick and easy to take along with you. We do tapping, grounding. We have lots of fiction, nonfiction, tips, tricks, wellness, recipes, music. And specifically, this was designed because we want an ability to give back to women who have suffered through domestic violence and are survivors. And so through the initiative of this magazine, we're able to take the price of the magazine and apply it to self-care kits that we then donate to women in domestic violence situations who are in transition and in shelters for them and also their children. This was something that we started as a brainchild back in 2023, and we really wanted to make it happen, and we've been able to do that. And how we're able to do it is through the cost of the magazine. So you can get a single magazine for $10, or you can get a subscription and get one each quarter for $20. And that allows us to just put those monies together to continue doing this work. Please think about getting a winter edition, because that way you can get all the rest for the rest of the year. Spring is right around the corner. The spring magazine is in its final stages, so it'll be coming out soon. And so you'll be able to get that as well. If you decide to get an entire year, if you decide to invest $20, not a lot, you decide to invest the $20, then we will also gift one issue to a friend of your choice. That allows us to get the message out, allows people to know a little bit more about tapping, about emotional freedom technique, and how all of this intersects with helping someone else as well. I want to thank you for joining me today in Getting to After. I would love to hear in the comments how this affected you. Did you do the tapping? Was it your first time? Did you notice that something came up? Was something released? Definitely let us know in the comments, because that's why we do this. That's why we're here. And if there's a particular topic that you'd like us to address, let us know. You can always email us at tapping@gettingtoafter.com, or you can come right here and put it in the comments, and we will do our best to give you the content right on time, just in time tapping, so that you can feel rejuvenated, reset, filled up. We want to keep the cup all the way full, and that's what we like to do here. So I'm Chatone Morrison. I'm the Prince of Positivity. I do believe that you can release your negativity so your positivity can reign in your brain, your business, and your big, beautiful life. I hope you have an amazing week. If this is the morning for you, have a great day. If this is the evening, go to sleep well rested, and we'll see you next time. Take good care.